How to fix a stiff and painful neck in 4 easy steps. If you've been suffering with neck stiffness or pain, it can be difficult to know exactly what you need to do to eliminate it. So today we're going to be discussing the 4 simplest steps that you can implement. And I promise you, you can implement these today after watching this video that will help to decrease your stiffness and get your neck moving better. Tip number 1. Friends, when you're on your phone, I need you to hold it at eye level. I need you to make sure that you are not slouching while and looking down at your phone, especially for long periods of time. If you struggle to hold it up because your arm gets tired, I recommend propping your arm up on an armrest. You can use some pillows. Sometimes you can use a table. It just depends on where you're sitting. You need to keep your phone at eye height in order to keep your neck from having to look down for prolonged periods of time. The reason why is when we have to look down for prolonged periods of time, it stretches out all the ligaments in the neck as well as the muscles. So then when we try to put our head back up straight, it feels very stiff because everything's been stretched out. Maybe it's gotten sore. Maybe there's a little inflammation because we were there for too long. And then it makes it more difficult to move. When the stiffness increases and it's more difficult to move, that makes it more difficult for the neck to heal itself. We have to avoid the prolonged position, and we call it text neck. It's so popular and prevalent that it has its own name. We have to avoid the text neck, which comes from looking down at our phones for long periods of time. All right. So you fix your phone posture. The next thing I need you to do is fix your computer posture. I need you to make sure that when you're on the computer, your monitor is about an arm's length away. So you want to be able to put your hand out and your fingertips should be touching your monitor. If it's further than that, what happens is over time, we kind of crouch down because we're trying to see stuff. It can cause increased eye strain, which can cause other difficulties, but it definitely leads to neck strain because we tend to get in those positions for a long period of time if we're focusing on our computers. So make sure that your monitor is arm length away. And that's a really easy one to test because you can just put your arm straight out and your monitor should be right at your fingertips. All right, tip number 3. When you're reading, watching TV, any position for a prolonged period of time, you want to make sure that your spine is in a neutral position. So that's head on top of shoulders, shoulders on top of hips, feet planted equally on the ground. Now, this can be particularly difficult if you're reading or watching TV while you're on the couch. Many people tend to have these deep couches where they sit really far back. In fact, some of my shorter patients, they can't actually put their feet down to the ground. So what I'm going to have you guys do is put some bed pillows behind you to help support your spine and move you further forward. Now, I recommend bed pillows because then you get that full support through your spine. If you just use a smaller pillow, like one you might find on your couch, it's going to support your low back, which is great, but it's not going to support that head and shoulders. Now, so many people work on computers for long periods of time. We have to talk about computer posture as well. So tip number 4 is making sure that your monitor is in the correct position and your computer setup is correct, especially if you're at the computer for more than 20 minutes at a time. Now, it can be difficult to find the correct monitor position because it really varies based on every article you read. So I try to keep things super simple. What I want to do is make sure that your eye level is right in the middle of your monitor. Because what happens is that as you're reading, you're looking up a little bit, you're looking down, you're looking side to side. So you're getting a little bit of neck motion while you're at the computer. This is actually a good thing because motion is lotion and it helps the tissues to heal. So you want to make sure that the middle of your monitor is at eye level. So in order to test this, I will actually take a measuring tape, measure someone's monitor from top to bottom, find the middle of it, and then I'll take that measuring tape and make sure that their eyes are right in line with the middle of the monitor. In order to find the middle of the monitor, usually what I'll do is put something like a Post-it note. I guess you could use a sticker or something. I usually use a Post-it note, and I put the top of the Post-it note right at the middle. So I want to make sure that when I line up their eyes, it's right to the top of the Post-it note. I realize that there's more advanced techniques that you could use to find the middle of the monitor. I'm just saying that that's what I do, and it tends to work pretty well. Now, the other thing that is super important is you want to make sure that your elbows are supported if you're at the keyboard for long periods of time. You want your elbows to be in roughly a 90-degree position, so your hands should basically be parallel to the ground. Again, you can get a little bit more specific about this if you are at the computer for prolonged periods of time. However, as a general rule, that's very effective to make sure that your elbows are supported at a 90-degree position, which decreases your risk of carpal tunnel syndrome, as well as making sure that your shoulders don't start to elevate, holding your arm in position. Now, a couple years ago, it became super popular to get rid of armrests on chairs. And so I have a lot of patients who don't have an armrest on the chairs, and they feel like this is to help their posture. But if you're on the computer for prolonged periods of time, that can cause a lot of muscle strain. So I want to make sure that you have armrests that are the appropriate height that allow your elbows to be bent to 90 degrees and your hands to be parallel to the ground. All right. I hope you've realized through all of this, the best thing that you can do to decrease pain and stiffness in your neck is to modify your posture throughout the day. We tend to get into these postures that actually increase our pain and stiffness throughout the day, and then we sleep in a bad posture, which tends to increase our pain and stiffness throughout the day, and it becomes a negative cycle. In order to break out of that cycle, we have to create some better habits that put our bodies in different positions that decrease the stress and the load.